citizens to be able to feel that they were worlds unto themselves, self-sufficient, sometimes arrogant and superior, that they could do without the rest of humanity. As the process of globalization advances, such notions become less tenable, even for those large imperial-scale countries. But they retain their attitudes to a certain extent. China and India have, in addition, a sense of ancient depth, of history, that strengthens their sense of self still further. Iran has this too, albeit often infused with nostalgia and a sense of loss and decline. But the Iranians tend to measure themselves not against China or India, still less against their Middle Eastern neighbors, but against Europe and North America. Iranians, like the Chinese, have been able to feel that theirs was the original, the oldest civilization. Many Iranians have believed, and deep down may still believe in some way, that they have the best poetry, the best music, the best philosophy, the best food, or at any rate the best rice, and, of course, the best religion. However untenable, such notions could not even be thought of without there being at least an element of justification to them. It is great poetry, great music, wonderful food, and great rice. Within Iran there is, as ever, still a remarkable continental diversity of ethnicity, language, climate, geography, flora and fauna. And, thanks partly to the lonely path trodden by Iran in its revolutionary anti-Western politics, Iran maintains that variety and is still less globalized than many other countries. The bazaars, their merchants and their traditions were close to the revolution of 1979, have been among the revolution's prime beneficiaries, and are still close to the center of the country's economic and political life. Iran's bazaars still sell more home-produced goods than are on the market elsewhere, and sustain more artisans producing traditional craft items, metalwork, ceramics, printed textiles, rugs, and other items, of higher quality than you find elsewhere. If you go to hotels on the southern shore of the Persian Gulf, in Dubai or Qatar, for example, you may find that the better quality souvenirs on sale in the gift shops, with the price marked up enormously, presented as local, were actually made in Iran. The apparent economic self-sufficiency of Iran's bazaars, perhaps something of an illusion, still reinforces the country's sense of cultural self-sufficiency. Since the second millennium BC and the very beginnings of mankind's recorded past, Iranian history can be seen as a microcosm of human history as a whole. Empires, revolutions, invasions, art, architecture, warriors, conquerors, great thinkers, great writers and poets, holy men and lawgivers, charismatic leaders, and the blackest villains. A visiting Martian wanting to see the full range of human activity, good and bad, to understand mankind, could well look at Iran as a kind of introductory course. Within this, the history of the last 50 years in Iran is particularly dramatic, eventful, and characteristic. A further reason to look at Iran is that since the time of the Iranian Revolution, European and Western attitudes to the rest of the world have been forced to change. Previously, we tended still to think in terms of linear development in the Middle East and elsewhere towards a Western economic and social model, a Western idea of modernity, away from the traditional patterns of life of those countries, which were perceived as backward and outdated. Now, we cannot afford to think in that simple way any more. There is, for example, a realization that countries like China and India are following their own developmental path, and that their economic weight in the globalized world is going to demand respect, if not predominate. The Western model is no longer the only option. This does not mean we should be shy about values like liberalism and representative government. It may mean we have to argue for them with greater urgency, clarity, and consistency. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 and the Islamic revival in the wider world that followed, triggered by the revolution if not directly led or inspired by it, changed assumptions about the direction of development. The history and culture of the Middle East, and of Iran within that, has taken on a greater importance because we have to accept that it is going to be a formative part of the future of that part of the world, and all parts of the world are closer to us and more intimately involved with us than formerly. After